Hey guys, I really don't want to talk too much about E3 and bore the hell out of you, since most of you already saw it and I'd just be repeating what you already know. Microsoft's E3 conference was exactly as expected. Like I said, as far as they're concerned, they already have the hardcore fan base and only need a few games to keep it. It's obvious they want the casual fan base and are going to go about it any way possible, even if it has absolutely nothing to do with gaming, and that they really don't care all that much about their hardcore fan base. Which I also thought would make Nintendo's job even easier, but I thought wrong, didn't I? Now, here's the thing. I expected three things to happen in Nintendo's conference. I expected them to talk about the casual stuff. As I said before, they're still going to try to bring in the casual audience to the next generation. I just don't think it's guaranteed. I also expected them to give their main Nintendo fan base a reason to get the Wii U. They kinda did that with Pikmin, New Super Mario Bros. And such. What I assumed they would do third, and I was 100% wrong with this assumption, was allow more people to talk more about the newer IPs, as I was pretty sure Nintendo was going to stick to talking only about what they make while letting others talk more about the games that were supposed to bring in the other fan base. I actually think a lot of us were expecting that, and that's what made it such a big disappointment for a lot of people. It wasn't so much a disappointment because Nintendo had a bad conference. It was because majority of us, and I include myself in this, were expecting something. And when Nintendo didn't show us anything we all assumed we would see, it ended up being a disappointment. Now at first I was going to say it was our own fault for making assumptions that Nintendo never really said would happen. But I can't really say that because honestly, I don't believe that at all. Nintendo seemed to only want to talk more about themselves as opposed to talking about what was supposed to pull in the other fan base. At this point, Nintendo can't bring in the other hardcore fan base. Other game developing companies have to do it, which is actually what I expected to happen. I figured Nintendo would say what they wanted to say and allow other developing companies to come in and talk about what the new titles were that were supposed to bring in the other hardcore fan base. Now, I can kinda understand why Nintendo spent more time showing what they did as opposed to giving more time to other developers or even talking about the games themselves, as they are a game developing company, so if they had to choose between hyping their own games versus letting other developers do it, they would choose their own. However, it was rather disappointing for them to do that during a conference where a lot of people were expecting something more. Now, as far as them showing what the Wii U can do power-wise, it's much too soon to show that. And when they finally do, it won't be that much of a difference. The days of 8 to 16 to 32 to 64 thing is over. So expecting graphics to be twice as good now? Not gonna happen. If anything, all we'll be hearing next gen as far as who has the better graphics will come down to small things. Like how console A's graphics are better than console B's because in random multiplayer shooter number 843, if you look at the foot of this character, you can clearly see a more realistic toenail on his right foot due to the processing power of whatever graphics card being able to show more pixels. In other words, it'll all look the same. Now, as far as who I think won, I give the trophy to Sony, mainly because they did something I didn't expect. Well, two things. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this, but they showed people with The Last of Us, if you thought the PS3 couldn't go any further, think again. In which I must say, well played, Sony. This game could very well explain why Sony's not really worried about a new console, probably because the PS3 isn't done yet. Now we just have to hope that all of this time, effort, and money doesn't go to waste. Plus, Beyond Two Souls, while there was no gameplay, actually grabbed my attention and I'm rather excited for that game, as well as the new God of War. I personally don't want to say Microsoft's was the worst since as a person who doesn't care for the Xbox at all, it could just be my own bias towards it. And me not being a fan of Halo or Gears only adds more to it. So I don't really know if the conference was really as boring as I thought, or was it really that bad. But in the end, I didn't expect Nintendo to show us the true power of the Wii U since their style just isn't made for that. Even if they did show us a new Zelda or Star Fox or whatever, it would have never looked as good, or should I say as realistic, as what a lot of other developers would have shown. And I did expect them to let other companies do it. And when Nintendo showed us this controller, while I'm sure a lot of you had a lot of fun trolling, this just got people even more excited. It was as though they said, before we show you guys all the games you'll want to play on the Wii U, this is the other controller you'll be able to play with. So a lot of people went in thinking, alright, show me what I'm going to be playing with that controller. And they didn't actually see it. So I can understand why a lot of people were disappointed. I'm sure that there's a lot more to the Wii U than what we saw, but Nintendo just wouldn't let us see it. So while I don't see it as a bad conference, I can understand 100% why people saw it as a disappointment. Oh, and before I go, the only fighting game mushrooms belong in is Smash Brothers. Leave them the hell out of my Tekken game.